I'm Camden. I hope you're doing well. The first thing to note is that all of Vancouver, the culture revolves around the nature. And we're gonna have some specifics coming out, but just get ready for incredible nature everywhere you look. It's awesome. But the second thing to note is that from a tipping culture standpoint, this does seem to resemble the US a bit. It does seem like 10 to 20% is typical when tipping. Just be prepared for that. Third thing to note is that when you're trying to figure out what you should pack and what to wear, this is not one of those cities where you need to bring a bunch of fancy stuff. Instead, it seems like the culture here is wear something that is going to A, protect you from the elements, and B, be comfortable. The nature is the focus again, so you're gonna wanna make sure that you are comfortable and have stuff that prepares you for all the elements that you might face. And the fourth and probably most important cultural thing to note is that public transportation is outstanding here. If you're trying to get from the airport, do not rent a car. Just take the SkyTrain. It's the easiest and most affordable way to get downtown. And you'll notice that a lot of places, the top tourist attractions, actually have free shuttles, and we're gonna jump into those because these next two recommendations both have free transportation available for tourists. So the first place that you might want to visit is Grouse Mountain. This place is absolutely unbelievable. It's only 20 minutes from downtown and it is just incredible. It is a little bit expensive, so be prepared to pay, but the views from up there are spectacular. You can go on wonderful hikes. You can just take the ski lifts up and admire the views. There's a grizzly bear habitat. Like, there's just so much to do up there. And the best part is that you can take two approaches with this. You can say, hey, I'm gonna spend a full day out in nature. I'm gonna do hikes. I'm gonna do the zip lining, all of the things that Grouse Mountain has to offer. Or you can just say, hey, I don't really have time for that, but I do want to see it. And you can just take the ride up, see it, take in the views, and see what it has to offer without having to be in full nature mode, if that makes sense. So it's a great option, definitely something that I wouldn't miss. The next one is a little bit controversial, and it's the Capilano Suspension Bridge. Now, the reason that I'm saying it's controversial is because you do have to pay to get into this place, and it is rather pricey, but don't worry, I do have a free alternative coming up in just a minute. But what's important to note here is that it is really well done. It's a very well curated place, and online it might seem like, well, why would I pay all this money just for this suspension bridge? It's not just that. You also have these areas where you can like just walk in this beautifully curated nature part where they've got like bridges attached to the trees, so you're like walking from the tops of the trees. It's just spectacular, something that I haven't really experienced anywhere else. They have this cliff walk, just like lots of stuff, learning opportunities. It is really well done, and it almost feels like a small theme park, and it is well worth your time if you have the money. But if you don't have the money and you want to avoid all the tourists, there's something called the Lynn Canyon Suspension Bridge, and this is a much more local spot. You're not gonna have as many tourists, you might have a few, but there's another suspension bridge and nothing is curated here. Instead, it's more of like a little hike. But what's great about it is it doesn't take long to get there. Again, about 20-25 minutes from the heart of downtown. You can take the bus to get out there, but the scenery is just spectacular. There's a beautiful river, there's a swimming hole where tons of people will be hanging out, especially in the summer, and it is just really, really beautiful. But one really important thing to note is if you are gonna go, note that the forest is very alive. There's a lot of moss kind of everywhere, so the ground might be a little bit slick, so it's gonna be good to have shoes that have a bit of traction, so just be prepared for that. But let's say you're not wanting to venture that far out of downtown Vancouver and you're still wanting nature, there's no better place than the Stanley Park. This park is just unbelievable. Think of it almost as like Central Park if you're looking for like a New York comparison, but Stanley Park is a little bit bigger. But rather than it being a park, it's more like just a preserved forest, and it is spectacular. You can go on great hikes in there. You're gonna find a lot of other stuff in there, which we'll touch on in a minute. But the other thing that you have all around Stanley Park on the perimeters is the seawall. And the seawall in Vancouver is absolutely gorgeous. You can walk the whole thing, just spend a whole day doing it. It is stunning at all hours of the day. That's where you're gonna find a lot of locals. You can bike, you can walk, you can rollerblade, do whatever you want. It is stunning and absolutely should not be missed. Now, two other really quick things that you'll find in Stanley Park. The first is the aquarium, and a lot of people wanna know, is the aquarium worth it? Should I do it? It isn't the biggest, and I wouldn't say it's a must-do. If you have little ones, they will probably enjoy it. We certainly did, but I wouldn't say that you have to visit it if you're short on time, but it is really well done. The other place is that from this area along the seawall, you're gonna have a great view of just the seaplanes. And if you're like me and had never really gotten to see seaplanes in action, It's pretty cool. You get to watch all the planes just land and take off and circle around. I enjoyed that. You might as well. The next place that you've probably heard of is Granville Island, and it is super cute and charming, but I do want to warn you, it's mostly for tourists. There is the big market there, and it is wonderful. It's really fun to walk through, but just keep in mind that there are going to be a lot of tourists there. I wouldn't plan on spending a ton of time there, but I do think it is well worth seeing. There is going to be a place coming up that I think is overhyped on Granville Island, but one of the unique things going to Granville is that you are going to take ferries over, and it's a really fun little experience. Don't worry about having to buy tickets in advance. You can just hop on the ferry and pay once you get on. It's a super short ride, and again, something that's kind of unique to Vancouver, so definitely make sure you don't miss it. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, hey, I want to see the tourist stuff, but I also want to see the local culture. I want to see where the locals hang out. The beaches are a great option, and there's a few. So yes, you have Sunset Beach and English Bay, which are just hugging the coast right along the seawall, and they are beautiful. Definitely going to have a couple tourists if they're walking that seawall, but mostly a local area. But if you're wanting to push out a little bit further, Kitsilano Beach, it's a beautiful little area of town, wonderful beach to hang out at. Again, beautiful scenery. It's the great spot where if you're wanting a view of the city with the mountains behind it, this is going to be the beach where you're going to want to hang out, and it's just gorgeous. And if you're wanting to experience a local market, there's no better choice than the West End Farmers Market. This market happens on the weekends, and I don't know what else to say other than it's a cute little farmers market on a cute street with a local feel. Not much more that needs to be said, well worth checking out. The other place that you might have heard of is Gastown, and it is a really popular area of town. It's really cute cobblestone streets, and the main attraction down there is the Gastown steam clock. It does go off every hour, and then I think every 15-minute mark. On the top of the hour, it does this little like steam performance where it like sings this little song. It's kind of cool. Not something that you have to see, but if you are down in that area, which you probably will be at some point, try to get there at the top of the hour just to see that, but do note there will be some tourists. I want to tell you about probably the best hidden gem in that area is McLeod Books. And this place is a bookstore that is just fantastic. I don't have much footage because you're not allowed to film in there, but this is owned by people who really care about books. I saw them actually turn away somebody who wanted to buy a book, but they were planning on rebinding it, and the owner was like, you know what, that's gonna mess with the integrity of the book. I'm sorry, in good conscience, I can't sell this to you. But let's talk about food. I'm gonna give you one healthy option, one casual option, one fancy option, one hole in the wall, and one place that is a little bit overrated. So let's start with the casual option. There's a place called Livia Fornell Avino, and it is this wonderful little Italian joint. It is like a pastry shop in the morning. They do have dinner options. It's really casual, nothing to complain about. Great option if you want it. If you're looking for more of that healthy option, there is a place called Garden Strathcona. It is wonderful. Think like health bowls. They've got a bunch of vegan options, really cute setting as well. Definitely recommend them. If you're looking for that hole in the wall type of place, there's a spot called Number E Food. It's this little sandwich shop. Awesome owner. He was so friendly to us, and he makes a killer sandwich, so I would definitely recommend that for the hole in the wall. If you're looking for that fancy night out, there was this place called Kisatanto, and just fantastic. This place is on the Michelin Guide. It is one of the best meals I've had in my entire life. If you have the money to splurge, this place is well worth your visit. Outstanding meal. And if you're looking for that place that's a bit overrated that I would probably skip next time, it's Lee's Donuts. You'll notice that a lot of places recommend going to Lee's Donuts. I didn't quite get the hype. I felt like it was just a standard donut place, and there was a long line and a lot of tourists, so I don't know, I think you can do better. Let's talk about 3 coffee places that I definitely recommend, and these are all in that Gastown area. The first is called Revolver Coffee. Great vibes, wonderful coffee, just a fun place to be, definitely great. The other one is Timber Train Coffee Roasters. This place has probably the best aesthetic, like in terms of like a place to hang out. Just really cool, definitely a vibe to be there. And then there's also a spot called Nemesis Coffee. This place, yes, has a good vibe, but also just serves really good food. But let's talk about which area of town you might want to base yourself in, depending on what you want your vacation to look like. The first place that you might consider staying is Gastown. And we've already touched on this. It's a really popular, trendy area of town. You're gonna basically be right in the heart of all of the action. It could have a little bit of noise. There is a little bit of nightlife there, but you're in great proximity to everything. It's a wonderful spot, but it might be a little pricier than some of these other options. Next up, you have Yaletown. And Yaletown gives you really good access to places like Gastown, but it's a bit more residential, but is definitely a bit upscale. So you're not gonna save much money by being there, but if you are wanting that quiet, upscale residential area, Yaletown is probably a great option for you. Now, if you're not as worried about being right in the heart of all of the action, that's where Kitsilano might be a great option for you. We've already touched on it because they have a wonderful beach, great walking paths, beautiful parks, and it's definitely more residential. Now, the downside is you are a bit further out from the city. You will have to commute in, but it's pretty easy. Probably a great spot if you are looking for a longer term stay or if you're just wanting that really residential feel. The next area is Grandview Woodland area, right off of Commercial Drive. And this is a bit further outside of the city itself, but it's a great area if you want that local feel and if you want to have great access to a lot of the top restaurants. The drawback is you're not downtown, but the upside is it's definitely going to be more affordable. Next up is North Vancouver, and North Vancouver is probably the best option if you just want to emphasize access to nature. This is not in the city. You are a little bit of a drive away, but you're going to be really close to Grouse Mountain, the Capilano Suspension Bridge, Lynn Canyon. You're basically at the doorstep of all of the incredible nature. But the place that I will probably end up staying the next time where I recommend is the West End. This area is wonderful. It is residential. You don't have as many tourists. You still have a lot of access to nature. You're a short walk to Stanley Park. You also have the seawall and places like Sunset Beach and English Bay. You've just got a lot of stuff that you would want, but you're still downtown. You have easy access to Gastown, like a 25-30 minute walk, depending where in West End you are. It's just kind of the best of all worlds for what I'm looking for. But let me know in the comment section what you're looking for. And if you want my unfiltered thoughts on Vancouver, you can watch this video right here. I hope all this was helpful, and we'll catch you guys next time.